Game designer says developers would be more candid if gamer culture wasn't so toxic. So this one game designer has came out recently and said developers that would be more candid if gamer culture wasn't so toxic. Us, the gamers, so toxic. And I kind of agree with him here. We're going to look at this article by Kotaku, and we're going to go over it, read some of the things that he has said, and things like that. Okay, guys? Recently, the designer and programmer Charles Randall, who has worked on companies like Ubisoft and BioWare, wrote a long thread yesterday that went viral on Twitter and is worth reading because Twitter is impossible to read. Here it is with a bit of proper formatting. Okay, here we go. The other day, a friend commented to me, "I wish game developers were more candid about development." He was surprised when I said we are. The caveat is that we're only candid with other industry people because gamer culture is so toxic that being candid in public is dangerous. See that recent Twitter thread about game design tricks to make games better, filled with gamers angry about being lied to? Forums and comment sections are full of Dunning-Kruger specialists who are just wanting or waiting for any reason to descend on actual developers. See any thread where some dumbass comments how easy it would be to say add multiplayer or change engines. Any dev who talks candidly about the difficulty of something like that just triggers a wave of people questioning their entire resume. Questioning here being an absurd euphemism for becoming a target of an entire faction of gamers for harassment or even worse. There are still topics I can't touch because I was candid once and it resulted in dumb headlines, misunderstandings, and harassment. So while I would talk candidly about certain big topics right now, I know doing so would lead to another wave of assholes throwing shit at me. And of course, I face almost nothing compared to women / LGBT whatever plus folk. Auger says we have to hide what we do because our intended market is volatile. Okay, make games that don't suck and provide adequate support, and you won't get torn limb from limb by the toxic community. I hear you. I hear you. Here's the thing. I kind of agree to a certain extent, but at the same time, it sounds like to me what he's talking about here is criticism. Criticism, it can be constructive and it can be toxic. There could be just people out there. But look, I think the majority of people don't really even blame developers a whole lot for anything. If anything, they blame publishers. Am I wrong? Do developers really catch a lot of shit? Or is it more publishers for stupid, shitty business practices like microtransactions and things like that? You think they both get it? You think the devs get it as well? Because I never see anybody saying, I mean, there was the one instance like the Andromeda thing, BioWare, why did you screw this up? You know, the last BioShock game. And I know there was the Gearbox.
BioWare took flack again for for Mass Effect 3 for its endings.
Right.
They changed it, you know.
Yeah, I guess. But
what's that? No Man's Sky,
yeah, No Man's Sky, hello.
So did Sony. They
Hello
did
Games.
it too, but No Man's Sky, that publisher was that. I forget what that publisher.
And Gearbox with Alien Colonial Marines too.
So they get it, but of course the publishers get a lot too, because sometimes the publishers pushes the developer to release a game.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Is there are I can count 3 times, like we said, we can only account for 3 times that devs actually caught shit. The Hello Games with No Man's Sky.
Well, that's just off our top of shit, you know.
Right. I agree.
If we go in there and research, we could probably find a whole bunch.
Probably, but what I'm saying is most of the time, I feel like the publishers get more hate because they're the ones. Like everybody knows at this point, right? That like when a game comes out unpolished, well, the publisher rushed it to. Like even the BioWare thing for Mass Effect, we know EA was really the ones that like pushed the development of that game. They had to get it out within that certain window, and instead of delaying the game, the publisher made them come out. Or like the we know there's certain like when microtransactions and things like this are put into the game and they become unbalanced. Well, we know that the developers don't really care if the microtransactions are in there or not. Probably prefer that they weren't. It's the publishers who want them in there to make money on the back end. So Exactly. Publishers pay the bills and make the deadlines. Auger says when a game is half done, it's a publisher who forced the timeline. Absolutely.
But if you look at it, publishers go, hey, here, we need this game. We want this game out such and such, and developers are given timelines. The reason they're given timelines is because publishers are investing their money because it is the publisher's money. They're helping. They want this game out. They're paying these people to develop this game. So so those developers got to be held accountable to their timelines too. I mean, yeah, you don't want to rush a game at the same time. But then again, they kind of put themselves in that position too by agreeing, yeah, we can get this game out in such and such time. Oh, and then come back to your publisher and say, no.
Here's what I take away from this is if the developer was more the more CD Projekt Red. Okay, CD Projekt Red, they are in touch with their audience base. We're going to talk about some other games here today that one is more in touch than they have been in the past with their audience. One is further removed from their audience than they ever have been. And we're going to talk about two games coming up after this in just a minute, and we'll talk about that. But let's look at one that is totally in tune with their audience right now, and that's CD Projekt Red, right? That they just did everything right with The Witcher 3, the way they released DLC content, the way they handled their content, blah, 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 blah. They've been very candid throughout that development process, too. And they're also being very candid and very open about the process of the... to an extent. I mean, they can't reveal all the secrets of the game or there wouldn't be any surprises, right? But to an extent, they've been very candid about their process with their upcoming Cyberpunk 2077 game. Talking about how it's been funded by the Polish government and things like that, and talking about how this and that, and we had this leak, and don't look at the leaks. If we will announce news when we're ready, this could be bad spoilers for you. So here's my thing is we've seen people who are transparent and candid actually gain audience favor, and that's how they get around this whole gamers are toxic. I mean, in some cases, when the developer lies to you flat out like Sean Murray did from Hello Games, did he not deserve to be ridiculed and criticized? Did his game not deserve to be ridiculed and criticized? I mean, there's a fine balance to walk when trying to convey whether or not you would recommend a game or not. And you can't just cover the games that you love all the time. Sometimes you have to be like, well, here's the games I don't love, and here are why I don't love the whole games. This is anyway.
You've been on some forums, right?
Yeah.
If everything goes to how your game of Pops likes, then you don't get a lot of crimson. But if there's something wrong or something's getting delayed and stuff there, you'll have people come out that are pretty toxic. You always have that.
But I don't think that's tied directly to games. So I don't think that video games are the most toxic community ever. I mean, I think this is the same
community ever. But what I'm saying, you do get toxicity.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's just the internet. Period. Get over it. I like this could go towards politics. Look at how toxic politics has become.
Toxic, very positive. I'm not disagreeing with that there, but you can't say there ain't toxicity in games if the developer is honest.
Movie development.
To be honest, is still suffer toxic because that's the way of the internet.
I know, but I'm just saying that the internet itself is toxic. We as people, as in general, are toxic. But still, those developers that are honest and that are transparent usually end up coming out on top above anything else, is what I'm saying. Even despite the toxicity. What do you guys think?
I think it goes two ways.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a two-way street. It's a two-way trust here.
I think honesty
but the trouble is
transparency is always best.
I think so too. Don't get me wrong. I agree with it. But you're going to have toxicity out there in every single form. It's just going to happen. You're going to have a lot of haters. You're going to have a lot of people who are fanboys. Because you got the opposite of toxic. You got those people who. I mean, I'm not trying. People who are fans of Star Citizen do not stand to any haters. I think when the game does come out, it's going to be great. But look,
It's gonna be awesome,
with
yeah.
Star Citizen, okay? No, you can't say, man, why did they develop? They're laying the game again. Oh, they just want to make it better. It's going to be. Well, is there a possibility that maybe they're not going to come out with this game? Oh no, that's never going to happen. You got to address that issue. That there's a possibility.
Yeah, there's a possibility that game might not
this
get off the
game's
ground.
not going to come out. This game's going to fail because he's taking too long, or at least some people think he's taking too long. I should say he is.
And they're blowing through countless funds
But you
and things like that.
you got the haters on there, and of course they've been really bad. They've been cracking down on haters on their forums and just banning those people outright. But you got those fanboys. You got them. These guys walk on gold. Can't be wrong. And that's just, and to me, that's just as bad.
You have to buy all 5. The biggest criticisms are of unfinished content, DLC included on the disc, locked behind paywalls, and episodic breakdown on a cliche story. You have to buy all 5 versions to get the whole story. That is true. That is the biggest criticism, and that's publishers. That's not devs. The anonymity of the internet. I call someone dumb for XYZ reason, but it's across the spectrum of all forms of online medium. Yeah, and I agree with that as well too. Absolutely, I do.
But that's what I'm saying is, if you're facing toxicity on the internet, then you're in the wrong business because there's a toxic crowd out there. You're going to get trolls on every freaking side.
Tech?
It's just in there.
Tech?
We talking about the community or the honesty of the developers?
Both.
Well, I think it's best, that honesty and transparency is best. That they shouldn't make false claims and promises and stuff and then not deliver, because obviously that's going to make the community toxic because they're pissed off because I just spent this money on this and I was promised this and you didn't give me what you promised and I paid for this, So it's almost like they caused the toxicity by pissing their community off, their paying customers off by not doing
I agree.
And I agree with that there too. But trouble is, sometimes it comes down to the format they're coming out with, how they're paying for this game. Some of you got free to play game, which no game's free to play. Everybody who thinks there's games to play out to free.
I like the term.
There's no freaking free to
It's
play.
getting paid somehow.
I like the term
It has to be paid
freemium.
somehow. And when you got these free to play players. When a game goes free to play to survive, they're going to a free to play deal. So you got these microtransactions that help support this game. And so this guy maybe buys an experience scroll so he can experience faster. And now, that's not fair, says the free to play players. They're gonna be mad about that.
The ones that aren't paying.
So you're going to have that toxicity right there, just because these guys ain't getting their free content. And of course, you got to think about it. If you really look at it judgmentally, though, and be honest about it, you're gonna say, well, that's how they're earning their money. That's why you can play free, because this guy's buying that experience scroll, or this guy's buying that material so you can build a better weapon, whatever the case may be. If you don't like those games, then don't play that game. But you see what I'm saying? If somebody in the audience doesn't agree with what the developer's doing, even though it's probably right to make that game exist, there's people in the community that will criticize them for that. There, and usually it's not constructive.
All right, Tech, finish your thought. Sorry, Togar.
Sorry.
Tech, finish your thought.
I pretty much said what I wanted to say. I mean, I feel like that if they're just honest from the get-go, then people know what to expect, and then they get what they were promised, and then they're like, oh, hey, that's what they said they were going to do, and they did it, And if you don't like,
I'm not saying it eliminates toxicity, but it does cut down on it.
It would cut down on it, yeah.
Well, the people who are fans of you, it'll cut them from being toxic to you. But the people who don't agree with you are still going to be toxic.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's not going to eliminate
If they don't
it.
agree with your honest. They're going to be. That's what I'm trying to say. Honesty doesn't necessarily mean you cut down the toxicity. It just means you ain't going to make more people more toxic. The people that you're.
I don't believe that, though.
don't agree with.
And I will explain why I don't believe that here in a minute.
Okay.
First,